the Governor Youngkin out of Virginia setting up a hotline for parents to call in, or to email in rather, and to complain about critical race theory or whatever else he is wrapping up into this hotline. He says, we're asking for folks to send us reports and observations, Youngkin said, about what's going on with critical race theory. Here's the thing. This is deputizing parents who, some of them might even be parents who are going to email. Let me stop. Some of the people who are going to email this list are not even going to be parents. They're not even going to be people from the school district. It's going to be in a continuation and an extension of this fear mongering around actual history, and juxtaposing that to the fact that you're bearing witness to history as it happens in the George Floyd murder case and the federal case. I just want to know, you as a parent, what do you feel about this now deputizing of other people who potentially aren't even connected to the school system, sending them in there to intimidate teachers with these reports to the now the governor of Virginia?
You know, Ben, I feel like our country is moving backwards. When you, even upon, you know, the reflections I did on Martin Luther King Day and looking back at his archive and past interviews and footage, and when you read the statements that were on the signs then, and you juxtaposition that to the statements that are on the signs of protesters now, it feels as though we're in the same era. It feels like we haven't really made much progress. And so what we see every time that there has been a movement for the advancement of Black people in this country, we see a different form of resistance to that advancement. And so I think what we're seeing is a modern day iteration of that resistance. And so, I mean, when you think about when we got the right to vote, what happened? All of a sudden, there was a poll tax. There was some response to our advancement, a response that made our advancement harder, less tangible, more expensive, or just not tangible at all. And so I feel like when I look at the education system and I see how many, especially Black women across this country, who have been working relentlessly to close the achievement gap, to close some of those disparities in our education system. And even as I look at our young people and see just how educated they are on their history and how that has equipped them and informed them to be successful in fighting for the advancement of Black people today, right? And so now what we're seeing is, like you said, a weaponizing of the classrooms in a way that dispositions our children from knowing the truth about not only who they are, but the truth about this country.
Huh. That's
and Georgia,
okay, brother man.
And Ben, let me say this. The most interesting, and Georgia, I posed this question to Ben earlier, and that is, 200 years from now, do you think that they'll still be teaching about the Japanese attack in Pearl Harbor? Do you think that they'll still be teaching about the 9/11 attacks? And yet 200 years today, you think about the fact that in his state, Youngkin, I want you to remember this, Youngkin. Are you telling me that it is criminal for me to teach that at one time your state passed a law making it illegal to teach my children simply because of the color of their skin, not the content of their character? Youngkin, are you telling me that it is wrong for me to teach that in your state, because slave owners impregnated enslaved women, that now you passed a law that said that the birth of that child is not based on the content of his character, but on the condition of servitude of his mother? Are you telling me that today, when I look at voter suppression, that I should not remember what happened in the gubernatorial election of 1905 versus that of 1902? Because see, back during that time, they invoked these poll taxes that you're talking about, Georgia, literacy tests, where now the state of Virginia passed a law saying that a voter had to prove an understanding of the Constitution. And as a result of what they did, prior to the 1905 gubernatorial election, they were able to lessen the number of people that voted 88,000. That's what happened when they invoked their voter suppression efforts. So are you telling me that I should not teach what you did yesterday because maybe, just maybe, it'll bring some level of clarity to the bullshit that you're doing today? Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. That's what I think I'm hearing. I'm hearing that they don't want to be responsible for the history of their ancestors, and that's just, and more importantly, the history that's happening right now. The history that's happening right now.
We shouldn't laugh about it, because the fact of the matter is, see, if all you say is slavery, you really are glossing over the real condition. That's right. When you get inside the nuances of it, that those same, when he's trying to evoke children, try to imagine, Georgia, and I've watched you and your beautiful family, being you and your beautiful family. Try to imagine that somebody takes all of us to the auction blocks. And Georgia, they're taking your children away from you and sending them to different plantations. They're taking you and your wife, and they're separating you and your wife. They're separating the children. We're brothers and sisters. They're separating us. Try to imagine the inhumanity that went inside this institution of slavery. So when you began to teach that, that is a level of guilt that even today it hurts me to read about it. So try to imagine a white racist like Youngkin and all these other Proud Boys. This is what they don't want you to get into. Not only are they guilty about it, but just the inhumanity of it all. And that is where the word hypocrisy in this, or the phrase, the hypocrisy of this democracy comes from. It's a shame that's too great for them to bear. So at all costs, they are going to deny the truth of teaching, of our experience. That's right. Not based on the content of my children's character, but because of the color of their skin.
That's absolutely right. You know, and there
Georgia,
is
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say quick, there is a mentor and friend of mine who hosts a phenomenal radio show here called Urban Agenda. And she interweaves what's happening currently with historical context. One of the things she always asks our audience is, who stole your history and why did they steal it? That's because we're seeing that happen now. But Brother Mac, to your point, you know, that happened during chattel slavery. You know, we didn't know about our history. We didn't know about the medical advancement of the Egyptians, that they were already performing surgeries. We didn't know that we were kings and queens. Our history, where we came from, who we were, was taken from us. That's right. And that having that lack of identity, that erasure of who we are, helped them manipulate us and keep us in slavery. And so the same thing I feel like we're seeing happening modern day. And those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves. We need to think critically and ask ourselves, who's trying to steal our history and why?